sorry for using that word. A bird just almost killed a parrot. So we have a clear patch of road here somewhere in Mexico. Oh my God. G'day guys, Matt Brandy. Today I'm reviewing the new 2021 Volkswagen Tiguan. Now I've already reviewed the 110 TSI, the base model, but this one was the one I really wanted to drive, the 162 TSI R-Line, and the reason? Well, it's powered by a Golf GTI engine. So yes, this thing does have the legendary E888 GTI engine. It's from the Mark 7, so it doesn't put out as much power as the GTI Mark 8 that I reviewed 1 or 2 weeks ago, but let me tell you, this thing is pretty incredible. Now, the Tiguan competes with things like the new Ford Escape, the Mazda CX-5, the Toyota Rav4, and the Honda CR-V. Today, we're gonna be doing a detailed review of the new Tiguan, and if you are new to the channel, I would love it if you could subscribe and hit the notification bell too, so you can see every time I release an awesome car review like this. Now, the 162 TSI R-Line that I'm driving here today kicks off at just over 65,000 Australian dollars, but if that's a bit too expensive, you can get into the base model 110 TSI for around about 45 grand. Now, as I said, this thing is powered by the legendary E888 GTI derived engine. It is a bit detuned, though it is the same as the Mark 7. So it pumps out a very healthy 162 kilowatt of power and 350 newton meters of torque from a 2-litre turbo petrol 4-cylinder. Now, power is sent through to all wheels via the Volkswagen 4Motion system and through a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. It is tried and true across Volkswagen. Upshifts are totally seamless, as are downshifts super quick. It's quite impressive. And being a bit of a hot hatch, this thing does fart on upshifts, which I think is just awesome. I'll be honest, I came from the GTI just before this, and I was like, up, getting into a big fat SUV, but when I put my foot down in sport mode and went, I thought, yep, I'm happy. And here's one of the best things about this Tiguan. Because it has almost as much power as a standard GTI, but it's all-wheel drive, this thing will do 0 to 100 faster than a Golf GTI. The official claim is 7.1 seconds, but I've timed this thing at 6.1 seconds. But there's a trick, you see. Before I tell you that, let me give it a bit of sauce. This thing, the farts are hilarious. So what's the trick? Well, in the base model 110 TSI, you actually get launch control. But on this one, for some reason, you don't get an official launch control. However, it does still have launch control. So when you navigate through the 1600 menus to finally get to the traction, here, take my eyes off the road, of course, to do this here, and then ESC system, and you put it into sport. When you brake boost launch it, that is, you put your foot on the brake as hard as you can, you put your foot on the accelerator as hard as you can, it lets you rev the car to 3,500 RPM and it holds it there. That's a launch control. Because if you do it with the traction control on, it won't let you get it past about 1,500 RPM. And so I think we should time another 0 to 100 just to make sure, right? So we have a clear patch of road here somewhere in Mexico. So let's do this. Traction is in sport. Floor the brake, floor the throttle. Let's go. Oh my God. Yeah, this thing is quick. Let's see what the 0 to 100 was. Let me pull over so it's not illegal. 0 to 100 in 6.9 seconds. Now, to be fair, that was uphill, but on a flat piece of ground, I have gotten 6.1 seconds. So your mileage may vary. I still stand by that this thing is so much fun to drive. It's just insane. And it makes me so excited for the new Tiguan R coming to Australia very soon. So make sure you subscribe so you can see as soon as that review comes out, because I'm getting my hands on that first. Now, as much as you can go and give this thing as much sauce as you really want, at the end of the day, this is a family car. So let me put the car back into comfort mode because I want to be comfortable, and we'll get back into the driving mode soon. But let me tell you that this thing, it just becomes a completely different beast. Dare I say it becomes comfortable, but it's not all roses. We will come back to that soon. For now, I want to talk about how this thing looks. Now, being the Tiguan R-Line, you do get an R body kit to it, and admittedly, it makes this thing look surprisingly cool. I thought the 110 TSI base model was already pretty nice looking, and this just takes it up to another level. You do get matrix LED lights as standard, so they blank out parts of their high beam for oncoming traffic. These are the best out there. They're so good. You've got a cool daytime running light, and they've also got these sequential indicators in them too. And then you get heaps of chrome all across the front, but it really does complement this midnight blue paint job, which I love with a passion. And yeah, you get an R badge in the front of the grille, which feels a little bit disingenuous, but I guess it does have the performance to back up a GTI, so whatever, I'll take it. And then yeah, it's super simple, yet somehow aggressive at the same time. I love it. Same for the side, I think it's pretty cool. You get these 20-inch wheels, which do look great. Up top, you get roof rails and factory tinted windows, which is a nice touch. And then of course, you get even more sharp body lines that you could really cut your finger on. It's pretty cool. And then the rear, I really love, and really for one reason, and that is the tail lights. I'm in the twisties here, I've got to give it some twisty sauce. I'm in sport mode here too, so I get the stiffening in the dampers. Again, we'll get back to that, but boy, does this thing handle surprisingly well for a giant SUV. At the rear, you get a giant spoiler for 13 tons of downforce as you're lapping the Nürburgring. Of course, I'm joking, but it looks pretty good. But the lights, the new LED lights, I think they're awesome. They do a little dancey dance when you start them up at night. It's pretty cool. A bit corny, but hey, so is this corner. Oh yeah, this thing is surprisingly good. Wow. But other than that, there's really not much going on. But yeah, it's a pretty good look. For an SUV, I really like it. In fact, I think it's one of the best looking, if not the best looking, in my opinion, in the midsize SUV class. But let me know what you guys think. Do you like the way it looks? All right, let's move on to the interior. Let's start with the look. It's a little bit bland, I'm not gonna lie. It's really just a sea of black plastics. You can get a white interior, which does look pretty good, but you probably wouldn't want that because it will just mark and get dirty so easily. So I wish they used a bit more contrasting materials. Having said that, the materials they use are soft touch pretty much everywhere. It feels so solid within here, like a true blue German car. You do get some tacky carbon fiber looking trims, but hey, it's better than nothing. What's incredible is the practicality within here. As you would hope, Volkswagen have delivered in spades. Let's start with the sheer amount of storage within here. In the center, you get this covered compartment that also has two invisible cup holders that can expand to whatever size you need. German over engineering at its finest. Like an airline, you get two giant overhead storage bins, which is just hilarious. The door bins are massive and they're felt lined too. You've also got this storage area up here where I guess a speaker would normally go, but that's also felt lined. And you get a storage area on the driver's side. You get a giant glove box that's air conditioned, and this center armrest does slide, it tilts, and it has a decent amount of storage within there too. This thing has so much storage within it, it is not funny. But that's exactly what you want for an SUV, right? In terms of I/O, you do get two USB-Cs up front and a 12-volt socket, but there's no wireless charger. In other markets, they get a wireless charger that's also a signal booster, but signal boosters are actually illegal in Australia, so you don't get that, and that is an issue because this thing has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but you can't charge your phone, and that saps battery, so you have to plug it in anyway, making wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay completely redundant, because otherwise your phone just drains to zero anyway. It's stupid, but hopefully they can figure out how to put just a standard wireless charger up front. I really like these seats on this top trim. They are Vienna leather, so they're very nice. They have the R badge in them, even though this is not an R, but whatever. I guess it makes you feel a little bit more special. Putting that aside, they are extremely comfortable. On the driver and passenger side, they are automatically adjusting with memory function, and they're heated too. Speaking of, these air conditioning controls, thank God, are not buried within this infotainment display. It's all this touch sensitive, but still separate physical controls here, so I'm happy with that. I'm doing about as much off-roading as one of these will probably ever see on a gravel road. All right, excuse me here while I give it some sauce. The DSG farts are next level. The steering wheel is straight out of the new Golf, and I have mixed feelings on it. Now, it's the same as in the Mark 8 GTI. People just complain because they're old and they're boring. The way that these work are absolutely fine. The issue with them being touch sensitive and on black plastic is that they get marked and scratched and smudged very easily. But otherwise they are extremely functional, and if you're not from an ancient generation, you will get used to it very quickly. I've now spent 2 weeks in different cars with this, and I'm fully used to it. In fact, I really like it. With that out of the way, the steering wheel itself is very nice, one of the best in the class. It's just so nice to grab onto, and that is really important because at the end of the day, this is what you touch the most in a car. And you've also got paddle shifters, which are pretty crap, but you know what? They work, so you get used to that too. The technology situation in this R-Line is also very good. Up front, you get the digital instrument cluster, and you can go through different menus. It's very customizable. I love the full screen maps. Not quite as good as the latest from Volkswagen, but it's essentially the same thing. It's a tiny bit slower, but still very good. What is better than the new InnoVision cockpit from Volkswagen is this older infotainment display, because it doesn't have any bugs like the new one. Well, at least not that I've experienced. It is super sharp, responsive, everything is where you want it to be. My one complaint is that it does just smudge so easily. So I'm constantly trying to clean it, and that also looks a bit gross. Still, it is mostly functional. You get navigation, you get Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. As I said, they're wireless, though that's kind of redundant. My issue with it is that it doesn't have digital radio, which is absurd for a car at this price. If I'm not using Android Auto, I'm listening to digital radio. Apart from that, and that it smudges easily, I like it. Ooh, also, this doesn't have the upgraded sound system, but you don't need it. In fact, I think this base 8-speaker system sounds better than the Harman Kardon one that was in the Golf GTI. It was just really tinny. I did not like it. And this sounds really good. Surprising, right? Now, being a family SUV, you do get family SUV rear seats. And I will admit, it's a very nice place to be back there. Unlike every other jacked up hatchback, this thing lives up to its SUV name because it is very nice back there. You can fit 3 people back there. I'm 5'11". I have plenty of leg room, toe room, and headroom. Practicality as well is very good. You get a USB-C port back there, and you get a 12-volt socket. You also get a 3rd temperature zone back there. Heaps of storage places back there too, because you have like these dual pockets at the top of the rear seats on top of the map pocket. I don't know what those 2 pockets are for. Let me know if you know what they're for. But yeah, you can slide the seat back and forward. You can recline them too quite far. So it's a very nice place to be. And then in terms of boot space, you have plenty. And it's got some neat features, like you have a movable false floor, so you can get a flat loading area in there if you're carrying heavier items. And no, this sexy mat does not come with the car. A power tailgate, of course, and you could put down the rear seats and get even more storage space. So it's very, very practical. But I know you. I know what you really want to know is how this thing drives. And let me tell you, this thing drives immaculately, surprisingly. Now, there is a lot of understeer. I was quite surprised when I got into this thing because, you know, the new GTI is a brand new front end. That thing just has eliminated understeer. This thing still definitely has it, but I forgive it because it's a big, fat SUV. Now, I'm in sport mode right now, and what that does is it stiffens up the adaptive dampers, but not horribly. It just makes it so that this thing corners very well, despite the understeer. But the all-wheel drive system just has grip for days. I'm so impressed because you don't have to now buy a fat SUV and make it boring. You can still have fun as a parent driving around your kids. When you want to come out to beautiful country Victoria like I have, you can still have plenty of fun. Now, when you change between the different driving modes, you get a different steering mapping, you get different throttle response and damper response too. And pretty much all of the modes are perfect. And I don't say that lightly. You know, as I said, in sport mode, taking a corner, it's absurdly good. This thing does not feel as big and chungus as it truly is. But then when we want to put the car into our comfort mode, or let's put it in normal mode because there are still some corners, everything slackens off, but it still feels very good, very dynamic. Sorry for using that word. A bird just almost killed a parrot. Imagine if I killed a parrot, I would be devastated. Yeah, you know, you can, oh my God. This thing has grip for days, grip for days. But you know, you get into town and this thing feels just totally normal. It really does have a split personality, which if I was ever buying an SUV, and preferably I'd go for a sedan because I'm one of those people, but still, if I was in the market for an SUV, these are the traits that I would be looking for. Something that can really do it all, because now cars have to be something to everyone. And I feel really bad for all of the manufacturers out there and the designers that are probably like, okay, we have to make a sports car that's extremely practical and that can defy physics. And they've essentially done that here. And I can't wait for the Tiguan R. I think that thing is just gonna be nuts, on another level, but also very expensive. Now, I have been flooring the snot out of this car, but I'm still getting 11.4 liters per 100 kilometers, which is very impressive. Expect about 10 liters per 100 kilometers if you're doing a mix of urban and highway driving. And road noise is also surprisingly quiet. These are riding on the Conti Sport contact tires, very expensive tires, by the way. And they're very low profile, but there's not much road noise within here, which is surprising but good. Oh, I almost forgot to mention, not only does it have road driving modes, this thing also has off-road driving modes, and that just changes the traction control. The reality is you're not going to be taking this thing heavy off-roading. If you do, expect to lose the bumper because it doesn't have much ground clearance, but this thing will absolutely be able to tackle any sort of gravel road or any kind of, mixed driving conditions with ease. So is the new Volkswagen Tiguan 162 TSI R-Line worth it? Well, yeah, it's expensive. 65 grand is quite a lot of money, but at the same time, I think it's totally justified. You don't need the packages. You can get a $2,500 sunroof. That is very good. I would option that, but you don't need it. You don't need the sound and vision package either because it all just works so well anyway. And so for $6,500, you're not making many compromises at all. In fact, you're getting a great family car with a 5-year warranty that drives really well. It's a lot of fun if you are a car enthusiast. You're not getting the life sucked out of you when you buy an SUV with this. And it's fully loaded with all the latest tech. I didn't even mention it now has travel assist. So this thing will legitimately drive itself, come to a stop, go, keep you in lane, and it's not intrusive either, so it doesn't piss you off. I think this thing is a true jack of all trades, something to everybody. So yeah, I think at 65 grand, it's a bit of money, but it's well worth it. But I'm curious, what do you guys think of the new Volkswagen Tiguan R-Line? Do you like it as much as I do? Let me know in the comment section below. Click over there to watch another one of my reviews. I highly recommend it. Feel free to support the channel on Patreon so I can keep doing these independent reviews. Of course, like the video and make sure to share it with your friends, and I'll see you next week.